This video is going to go over the feature called test mode. And most of our work in TaskFlow is going to be in test mode, which is shown right here. So we're configuring either test mode or production mode. So I can show you how that works. And what we're going to do is look at a job and look at the different options of how it looks in each mode. Currently, this job is set up to grab an email address from the data file, which is pretty standard. So I can see that my to email is going to be defined and mapped to the data element called to email. So if I look here in my data file, I have my to email is leslieconduit@yahoo.com. So let's pretend that that is production and that's a real email address. So now let's look at the different options for test mode. So if I click test mode, it allows me to configure it. And there's two main options here. Production mode means it's going to run the job as it would in production. So if I'm mapping my email to email, it's going to go to that email address. And also if I have an output going to a specific folder or a server, it's going to go to that server. So when test mode, often I'd like to see my email file before it gets sent, and I also want to see all my PDF files in my test. So if I click on test mode here, it's going to ask me three basic questions. First, do I want to redirect the output to the job test folder? And generally, I always want to do that. I might want to turn that off to make sure it appears in a different folder, but that just means that I want to redirect my test folder so when I run my test, it's going to show up in the list here. That's really helpful for lots of reasons. One, you can look at it right away rather than navigating to a folder. And then two, there's an option to zip all your files together. And if you need troubleshooting support, we'll ask you for that zipped folder. So it's really helpful rather than collecting it. The next option is one of two options. You can either redirect your email to the job test folder, which means it's basically turning on in your send email parm file the hold option. So basically holding your email and scan files in your temp directory rather than sending it out. Or we can allow the email to be sent, but redirect it to a specific address. And this would be to myself or my test email. So let's try it this way. So we're going to redirect our output to the job folder, and we're going to allow the email to be sent, but redirect it to this email. And I'm going to save these changes, and then I'm going to go to my test, and I'm going to run it. And as we'd expect, I see my output in my test folder, Puppy Lauren Conduit, and the date and timestamp, but I do not see my email and scan, and I know that should have been sent to my user override. So although my data file, if I peek at it, my data file says that this email address is leslie.conduit@yahoo. I know that I overrode that option to go to my Gmail. So let's go to that account, and there's our email. So if I click on this, it shows, hey, Lauren Conduit in the subject header, and then also in the body of the HTML text. So now let's see what our other options are. So if I go back to this file and I close this out, and I change my test mode to not redirect here, but to send my email files to my job test folder and save this and run the same test. Now you can see there's two additional files, an email and a scan. So to look at that file, you need to have an email set up to view your email files. I'm just going to save this file and then click on it to view. And it's automatically associated with Outlook. So it opened that up. So it looks just like the email in my Gmail account, except it's asking me if I want to download the images, which I can do that now. And there's my attached file as well. So now let's see what this looks like if I run it in production mode. So if I close out of here and I click test and I say production, now I know that a few things are going to happen. One, the PDF file is going to go to wherever I've defined my PDF. So if I look at my job settings for this job, my output should be going to my output folder, so user output. And then, of course, my email, looking here, is going to go to my Yahoo account. So that is production. Now, of course, you don't ever want to do this if you have actual live customer email addresses. You're always going to want to save production. Even though it's a production test, you're going to still want fake email addresses in your sample data file. So now when we run the test again, this email file will go to my Yahoo account. So I'm going to run the test and my PDF will not show up here. So as you can see, we don't have a scan, an email, or a PDF file. And then if I go to my output folder, and I sort by date, Here you can see my email that I just created. And then if I go to my Yahoo account, scroll to the top, there's my new email sent at 6:11. So that is test mode. Thank you for watching this video, brought to you by Eclipse Corporation.